Hi everyone, I'm Associate Professor Sarah Weiss, and in this short video I'm going to walk you through some questions that you can ask yourself as you take a bit of time to plan your course structure to shift your course from a real-world classroom to an online format. Taking this time now will really assist you to get the most from the investment of shifting into a digital format, and it'll also help you to identify which models, technological tools, and methods are going to best suit the course that you usually deliver in person. So as you consider the shift to a digital classroom environment, there is some real benefit from spending a bit of time thinking about how you're going to structure your online course. We're going to work together today to create a roadmap for online teaching success by asking a few critical questions, considering some components of online teaching, and then suggesting a few structures or plans to support that teaching. Okay, so first, we really need to identify your teaching style. If, like me, your classes are really interactive, and when you found out you were going online, you were like, holy crap, how am I going to do all that group work and interaction when people are in an online classroom? What is going to happen to all these activities that I rely on? Never fear. Online classrooms can be really interactive. You just need to think about how you're going to plan and structure your course. Maybe you're a more traditional style lecturer and you like to deliver content. Well, online teaching is probably going to be quite comfortable for you once you get used to the technology. So all types of teaching styles can be supported through online platforms, but what we need to do is take a little bit of time to think through and identify our own teaching styles so that we can design an online course to meet our teaching needs as well as those of our students. And that's what we're going to think about now. So first, you need to ask yourself, well, how interactive am I really? Do I normally stand at the front of a large lecture theater and deliver content? Or am I teaching a course that's based around case studies and the students need to do small group work? So you need to think about how interactive you really need to be and how interactive you want to be. And that will be shaped by the types of activities that you tend to do in class most often. It may also be shaped by your class size or even the level at which you're teaching. So if you're teaching master's level students in an executive program, they're probably going to expect a lot more interaction than, say, students in a 400 member chemistry introduction course as an undergraduate. So you also need to think about how comfortable you may be with direct lecture delivery. This is something that some of us do frequently, and for others, we often serve more as a facilitator in class. And the final thing it's really helpful to think about as you shift to an online platform is how much do you need that audience interaction to help you keep going as a teacher? And so how much live online discussion or live online teaching with student interaction is going to be beneficial to your own teaching style? I kind of take the, I'm in an airplane, I'm going to put on my own oxygen mask first, and then I can help others approach to course planning. And so the second thing I think we need to think about once we've thought through our own teaching styles and teaching needs are obviously the needs of our students who may not be birds of a feather. So what can we think about? We need similarly to think about how much interaction do our students need and how much interaction do they expect. Just because we're not in the same physical space, that doesn't necessarily reduce our students' needs or expectations for interaction. And it then becomes our responsibility to think really creatively about how we can provide, within reason, those interactions. We can also think about the types of supplementary information that we might normally provide within a classroom setting that is quite difficult to provide online. One of the things you are likely to find as you shift from a real world classroom to a digital classroom is that your digital teaching time and your digital contact hours in terms of formal content delivery tend to be truncated. It's just really difficult to record, for instance, an hour and a half lecture video without the things that happen in real life, like students coming into the classroom late, or someone from your audience asking a question, or having a bit of time just physically moving bodies around the room. So the time that you teach online will very much likely be a bit shorter than what you teach in real life. And what that means is you may decide that it's going to work really well for you to develop a series of supplementary information, and that might be in the format of pre-recorded videos that you provide to students. And this could be things like explaining assessment tasks, providing an overview of course structure, possibly providing summaries of literature or case studies in video format. And that way you can really utilize the live time that you have together online for discussion or for key lecture content. The other thing we need to think about is how can you be as clear as possible in your delivery and your expectations. And thinking about that now before you get into the online classroom can be really helpful. It's much easier for students in a lecture theater to raise their hand and ask for a clarification than it is in an online classroom. And so if we can be clear in the first instance, we can help both ourselves and our students. We also probably at this stage of planning need to think through whether and how we might need to make some changes to assignments and marking and what gets marked. For instance, when my current class that I'm teaching for Tsinghua University as a guest lecturer moved online in early February of this year, we needed to add in a new participation grade so that we could ensure that students were actually accessing and participating in our online format. Also, as part of that class, we normally have a little mini conference, which is assessed as our third and final assignment for the class. And so I had to think about ways that I could keep the content and main assessment from that task, but change the task a little bit so that it was amenable to a digital platform. So you may need to think about how will any assessment task needs to change to meet your new format? Also, what do your students need to know about those changes? I've found it really helpful to just make some short videos that I post on our shared class website, or for you, it may be your LMS at ANU, that would be a Waddle site, to let students know about those changes, because these are the types of things that they're going to be anxious about as their classrooms change. It's also worthwhile thinking about, if you are going to introduce an online participation component, how are you going to measure and grade that participation and make sure that you get approval for any of those changes from your local student office? You might also want to think about starting to assign homework, and by that I mean out of class activities that students do, and they can post their responses to an online collaborative platform like Padlet, which you can see more about in the Online Teaching Basics website. But these are things that you may never have needed to do in your physical classroom that are now going to become a really important component of helping your students feel involved, get immersed in the content of your course, and for you as an instructor to be able to check in and ensure that they're keeping up and that they're learning. And that's a final point I would make about considering the introduction of a participation activity or grade. By doing that and by checking it on a weekly basis, you're helping your students to stay on time with their learning when their normal physical structure of the classroom has gone away. It can be really important. We also, in planning the changes to our course structure, really need to think about our own lives and our own time. This is a big task, and for many of us, it's the first time that we've done this, and it's happening really quickly. So, some things that you can think about in terms of self care and also in terms of just setting that threshold at a reasonable level. Many of us are high achievers. Really ask yourself now as you're taking this time to plan, how long can you realistically spend preparing your online classroom? What aspects of your teaching that you love, that you really want to do, that you want to be perfect for your students, what can you let go of? How can you use technology intelligently and efficiently, not only to support your students' learning, but to support yourself? One key thing that I did very early in my online teaching was to create a video, and I'll provide another video on the website to show you how to do this. I created a video that showed the students how to use all of our various online technologies. It has saved me an enormous amount of personal time because students could watch the video, get all their technical questions answered, and I didn't have a million questions coming in about how do I do this, that, or the other online. And that's my final point. When you're thinking about self-care as you shift to online teaching, it's really important to recognize that because the physical space is now lost, you're no longer going to have your consultation hours in your office. You're no longer going to have that point where you walk into the lecture theater and you're present. You're online. And as we know, being online can really blur the boundaries of space and time, and your students still need to understand when they can contact you and when it's reasonable for you to respond. So just taking a moment to think about that now and incorporating that into the conversations that you have with your students, providing them with advice and expectations about how long it will take to receive a response to, say, a message that they send you in the LMS. How long will it take to receive feedback on any homework participation marks that you now add into the course? These things are small, but they're really important, and they're going to help you to set boundaries as you move into a space where you're likely to be working and teaching from home and you're kind of lacking that usual structure. So finally, I wanted to present to you a few models that you might consider for how to structure your online course. And everyone's courses will be different, as the picture here represents. There's a lot of variety in the world, so suit yourself, but just a few ideas to share. The first, if you're lucky and you're teaching perhaps a large undergraduate subject that is primarily content delivery, and if your students are all in the same time zone, you may be able to maintain a live lecture delivery. It just goes online. And so this could be supported by your usual office hours that have shifted to Zoom or another online conferencing platform. Your LMS is likely to remain mostly the same, and your assessment tasks probably won't change. So what you might want to consider here, and if you want to go to the Online Teaching Basics website, it would be some of the tips and hints about keeping your engagement with your students really human in a digital platform, and also some of the technologies that you might wish to use. Another option could be, depending on where your students are and the content you need to deliver, that you decide to pre-record your lecture materials, giving them all of the analytical content and concepts and theories, and you use your online time for live discussion forums. And so this would allow students to discuss lecture content together, to ask questions and have them answered, having come to that live discussion prepared, having watched your lecture videos and done their readings. In this case, it's likely that you can keep your LMS mostly the same. You might want to add here a few participation-based assessment tasks just to ensure that students are keeping up with the lecture material, and your major assignments are likely to remain similar or the same. So this is a bit of a hybrid model from the simple conversion. If you are like me and you normally have really interactive classes, going online can seem like a big challenge. And so, one way to overcome this is to adopt a hybrid model, which is somewhat similar to the pre recorded lecture plus discussion. So, you're going to give them all the concepts and theories and background information that you need to deliver in a kind of one directional way. And you're going to supplement that with live discussion forums as well as online activities. You may use the Zoom breakout room feature. You can divide a large class into small groups. They can go away for a set period of time, undertake the small group work, and just like you would in a normal classroom, then enter back into the plenary lecture to discuss it as a large group. This is a really effective way to keep up any small group work activity that you normally do in a real-world classroom. Another great way to encourage discussion and conversation is to have students post their ideas, responses to a very specific activity or question in between your live online discussion forums, and that gives them some starting points for discussion. You can open up something like a shared Padlet on screen when you're in your live Zoom meeting room or whatever format you're using. Open that up, share the screen, start to go through the students' contributions that they've made before your live online discussion forum, and it gives them a great starting point. They feel more prepared and less scared about coming forward and speaking in that live online conference. The other thing you may find it helpful to do, and again, it just depends on how far you want to go with this, you can join up your students by creating a Slack channel of which they're all members. They can then talk to each other. Maybe you want to use WhatsApp, or if you're like myself and you have a lot of Chinese students and you're comfortable with the platform, WeChat can be really great for allowing students to create their own working groups to discuss with each other, but also for you as a facilitator to deliver announcements and updates. So there's lots of different things that we can do to think about how we can keep our classes really interactive when we go online. Another thing that I want to remind you is that when you are online, sometimes it can feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do all the talking as I am doing now. You can share your screen in Zoom. Your students can share their screen. They can talk about something that they've created either during the conversation or before it. Here's something I've prepared earlier. You can use a whiteboard in Zoom and you can all collaboratively take notes. Now, this really depends on your class size. You can share hosting of your meeting room. So maybe if you have a smaller class or you're really having in-depth conversations, you'd like to rotate who hosts each discussion forum. You can definitely use the videos and online materials of others. There are some terrific YouTubers and TED Talkers out there, and they are legit, they're academic, and maybe you just want to give your students an opportunity to hear a different voice in the online forum. And don't forget, we're all probably now at home and Zooming everywhere, so you can invite guest lecturers into your Zoom meeting room. You can even pre-record an interview with someone you think your students might like to hear from. I've found it's really helpful to encourage student presentations in the online meeting room. They really enjoy this and it gives them an opportunity to share their knowledge and ideas. So whatever you can do, it's all about helping your students to engage with each other in the online forum, which otherwise can be a little bit clunky and sometimes slightly alienating. So what's next from me? I am, over the next several weeks, going to be putting together a series of videos in an attempt to support you, to give you ideas, and to help you know that we are all in this together. So we're going to talk about things like the online classroom environment and how to create warmth in a digital setting. I've got a blog post on online teaching basics about this at the moment. There's more to come. I really hope that you find this helpful. If you have ideas, questions, or contributions, by all means, let me know, and we'll see you on the internet.